So before Team Proposition comes here and paints this negative picture of for-profit universities, let me mention Monroe University, where the graduation rate is actually higher than the nearby community and state colleges, where 9 out of 10 of their recent graduates actually continued their education or found a job. And that 70% of the graduates actually come from low-income Latino and Black communities. Let's also realize that the people who go to Monroe actually have a lower default rate than the national average for universities. Let's also look at Taylor University in Malaysia, whose debate team was the WUDC semifinals last year. Let's also look at American National University, which was established in 1886, and there must be a reason why it still exists today and has 30 campuses across the US. And we here on Team Proposition don't see that for-profit universities just lure the poor with misleading ads and give them a crushing debt later on in life. We see that, sure, we do concede that there are actually bad apples out there, but instead of taking this Terminator approach, we should actually improve this sector and improve those that actually benefit society. We see that this actually gives it's an indispensable player in American higher education, especially for the minorities that do take them. What is our stance here in this debate? We are actually happy with regulations that protect students. No, thank you. That generally protect students, such as accreditation. What we're not okay with are the scams that Team Proposition are providing to us. We're actually not with that. We actually see that civil law already deals with this. Such an example is Trump University. I know, not an actual university, but once it was sued for, the students actually got $25 million out of that university and was shut down. We see civil law actually deals with this. What do we want to prove here in this debate? We want to prove three things: that traditional universities can't adjust to the demands of the changing labor market. Secondly, that for-profit universities provide a meaningful choice. Thirdly, we see that the best for-profit universities hurts the most vulnerable and systematically hurts the poor. And before I move on to my substantive, let's actually move on to some refutation. First of all, they tell us that for-profit universities actually leave students with really burdening debt. But we don't see why traditional universities don't do this in the first place. Where you see both universities just to get an education, you should go in debt in the first place. And secondly, they talk about how these people can't pay their debts later on. Let's look at first who actually goes to these universities in the first place. We see these people are actually poor, and that's the reason why they are in that statistic. People who are not in that statistic are the middle class and rich class. That's why they don't appear in that statistic, because they can repay their loans. Secondly, they talk about how they would abolish these universities. Would you destroy the buildings and turn them into non-profit universities? They didn't actually clear that in their models. And they also said about building more. Would you raise taxes? That will put more people in debt. We see that this actually will raise the student debt because education will be higher. Since people actually have to pay the cost for the building, that actually increases that in the long run. Thirdly, they talk about how people would go through risky loans. We see that people actually think long and hard before they take these loans in the first place, because this is an education and something that they will change their future. So I think that people think long and hard before taking any debts. Okay, so moving on to my substantive, how traditional universities can adjust. Let's have a clarification here. The traditional universities actually do provide us with research and academia, but we don't think this is the case here because traditional universities ignore four changing things in the educational sector. First, we see that there's an increase in students wanting a higher education. They also told us there's a waiting list on waiting list. I don't think their side of the house even solves this. Secondly, we see that demand for higher skills is career-oriented. Thirdly, we see there's an increase in demand for new areas of study. Fourthly, we see that there's an increase for degrees to be flexible. Such cases, if you're from a village of a single parent, you might actually be expected to work and study in second place. We see that for-profit universities, I'll take in a minute, for-profit universities actually responded to this, and that's the reason why they were created. Yes, please.
If during regulation work within the status quo, why do we see students default on their loan?
Well, we see people default on their loans because people can't find jobs. We don't think that's the problem of for-profit universities. People also default on their loans from traditional universities. Would you ban traditional universities because people default on their loans and people can't find jobs from the first place? No, thank you. We don't see that's the case here. And we see here the reason why traditional universities don't have an incentive to change for two reasons. The first reason is that they already cater to many students in the first place. We see Harvard Law, MIT Engineering. Even if you're not a brand name, they even conceded that community colleges already cater to a large number of students, whether it's for medicine or law. So they have no reason to take on the niche markets that the for-profit universities cater to, such as game design and medical billing. Secondly, we see that they have even when innovation happens, the innovation doesn't happen for the 4 reasons that I stated in the first place. Innovation would happen because they want to put out as many research papers as they want so they can boost their rankings. And they don't want to respond to the 4 things that I said in the first place. Now let's look at for-profit universities. We see that they're the fastest growing sector of higher education. And they went from 8% to 20% of providing all associate degrees. They grew despite their students being more poor and more diverse than non-profit universities. Why do we see that case? For 3 reasons. First thing, we see that the curriculum is more streamlined and job focused. We see that the focus is on the students and to give them skills and to get employed. Not, if you were going to go into a non-profit university, you wouldn't go to English or art, but you would rather go for medical billing or web design. And they can quickly develop a curriculum to offer credits in such as working in a clean nanotech facility. No, thank you. We see also that New York State, which offers 2-year courses, graduates their students at a better rate than and a better percentage than the higher education sector, including private non-profit universities. And we also see that STEM careers are also important in our modern society. We see that for-profit universities produce 51% of associate degrees in computer tech and info technology. We see that this is important and streamlined courses are becoming quicker and give employment much faster. We see this happen with Full Sail University, where it provides a bachelor's degrees in 20 months instead of 4 years. Yes, please.
What kind of regulation are you pushing that is different from status quo?
We're just going to give them more accreditation. And I'll explain to you why scrutiny and for-profit universities are more accountable later on in my substantive. So we see that also that for-profit universities provide new and niche markets as they pioneered degrees that aren't common, such as video game design, and we see traditional universities won't respond to this because they already cater to medicine and law and engineering. We see thirdly that they are actually the innovators of technology as they've created e-learning and distance learning. And why are they incentivized to do this? Not because they just want to care about their shareholders. We see that they already compete with other for-profit universities and their students are the reason why they profit in the first place. We see that if they don't bring in this profit by benefiting their students, we see that their reputation will go down and no students would go to the for-profit universities in the second place. We see that the profit here is the incentive. And will for-profit universities do anything to get ahead? Well, we see that traditional universities do this as well, which is not necessarily a bad thing because they want to attract the students. We see traditional universities already doing this. We see Wisconsin providing massages, manicures, and pedicures. We already see Washington State boast about having the biggest jacuzzi in the West Coast. We see Ohio State spending $140 million on the Taj Mahal, which has kayaks and canoes and rope courses. We see that it's justified for for-profit universities to profit instead of spending it on things that the student might not want, since the student might actually want to go into an education and not for these things. More importantly, we see that doesn't mean profiting won't put them back into improving. They actually want to improve their sectors and actually provide a meaningful education for their students, as they actually the ones who are going to benefit from this by benefiting their students and as they gain from this education. My second speaker will explain to you why this is a meaningful choice and it benefits the minorities. Proud to oppose.
The first speaker from opposition spent 8 minutes 21 seconds.
I'll thank the first opposition speaker for their speech.